You ever see a whole room laugh at a man just for sliding an old ID across a bench? That's how it started. Silas Booker, folks around here just called him Cy, slid that faded laminated card across the scarred wood, edges curling, picture smudged, like it was as tired as he was. Some folks chuckled polite, others let it bounce off the high ceiling. But Cy, he didn't blink, just waited while Judge Melba Grayson squinted at that relic. Her brow pinched like it always did when the rules in real life started pulling opposite ways. "Mr. Booker, this license expired in '97, she said, her voice even but the corner of her mouth twitching, trying not to smile, or maybe trying not to frown. Cy just shrugged, his voice gravel low. "Ain't had reason to renew it, Your Honor. Stopped driving long haul that same year." Now, the plaintiff's lawyer, Randy Bloom, fresh haircut, slick suit, barely old enough to rent a car himself, let out this little laugh, like the world was one big in-joke he'd never get tired of. "Your Honor, the issue isn't nostalgia. The law needs current proof of land ownership, not a walk down memory lane." The crowd started murmuring. I heard a woman whisper, "Bless his heart," and another lean in. "Isn't he the guy who fixed rigs by Booker's Hollow?" Even out on the courthouse steps, the faint twang of a fiddle drifted in from the radio van. It was Veterans Day, so the DJ was playing bluegrass and Salute the DJ tributes. But inside, the air tasted like old coffee and powdered creamer. Nothing fancy, just something to keep you upright. Deputy Jenkins, arms crossed, leaned on the back wall, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Cy opened his folder, and the flap creaked like an old door. He pulled out these ledgers, yellowed pages, handwritten in his son's careful scrawl, every mile and fuel stop logged for decades. There was a folded freight log from Red Rock Freight East Division, edges worn to velvet. Judge Grayson asked, "Do you have a recent title or survey?" Cy shook his head. "No, ma'am, but that ledger shows we've maintained the path since '84. Plowed it every winter. My boy Danny logged every trip." Randy scoffed. "With all due respect, you can't take a man's word in a faded notebook." Somebody in the gallery grumbled, "Ain't that something? 40 years on the land still don't count." Kyle, the local paper stringer, sat hunched on a metal chair scribbling, but mostly just listening. He'd smirked at the ID, but now his pen froze mid-sentence. Cy reached into his pocket and pulled out a little brass keychain, dull and tire-shaped, with Red Rock's logo nearly rubbed away. "Danny's," Cy said. "Last year he drove." Dispatcher gave it to him. Judge Grayson studied it for a second, but her face gave nothing away. She finally sighed and granted a 24-hour continuance. "Bring better proof tomorrow, Mr. Booker, or we move to judgment." The gavel came down, not angry, but firm, and people started shuffling out, boots clapping, coffee sloshing. Cy sat a while, then gathered his things. Jenkins held the door as November light cut across the floor. Kyle lingered, staring at the keychain, maybe realizing it meant more than it looked. Out at Booker's Hollow, Cy's garage slumped against the dusk. Tin roof, oil stains, smell of warm metal, and applewood smoke drifting on a lazy breeze. Inside, Cy worked on a carburetor, hands slow and careful, bluegrass humming from a dusty radio in the corner. He paused to wipe his hands, eyes drifting to the old beam where Danny's initials were carved. You could hear the years in his breath. Mabel Croton's Buick wheezed up the gravel drive. She never did bother locking that car, claimed the locks were older than most people in town. She stepped out, cardigan mismatched, pie tin in hand. "Don't you ever lock this place?" she teased, but her voice was soft. "Ain't much worth stealing," Cy mumbled. She set down the pecan pie, real pecans, not that syrupy stuff from Quick Mart, and smiled. "You didn't have to," Cy started, but she just shrugged. "But I did." They shared a long look, more comfort than conversation. The garage held on to old smells and older memories. Calendars stuck in the '90s, cracked stools, the weight of oil and time. "You've been saying it's just a place for 20 years, Mabel said, brushing off her sleeve. "Still haven't convinced me." Cy let out a short laugh that didn't reach his eyes. The radio crackled. Then, a knock at the doorframe. Kyle, notebook in hand, backpack asks you, "Hey, uh, I'm doing this project for civics class, oral histories and all. You mind if I?" Cy just shook his head. "Ain't much of a historian. Still worth recording." Kyle replied, stepping in, eyes wide at the walls of old trucking patches and dusty model rigs that he pointed at a photo. A young man beside a Kenworth. Unmistakable resemblance to Cy. "Your son." Cy nodded, barely looking up. "Danny. He liked the road. Red Rock Freight. My granddad used to talk about them. Said they'd stop for anybody." Cy smiled, just a flicker. "Back then, didn't matter who you were. You saw hazards, you stopped." Kyle scribbled, then looked up. "So why'd you stop?" Cy set down the wrench. "Sometimes the road lets go before you're ready." He paused, tracing the initials in the wood. "Pride's cheap. Kindness costs more but lasts longer." Just then, the sound of engines rolled over the hills, deep, synchronized, almost like thunder. Folks in town paused mid-sentence, squinting at the horizon. One by one, 12 rigs, polished, chrome gleaming, pulled up in a silent procession, a mechanical choir rolling up Main Street. They parked in a semicircle around the courthouse, engines humming in the cool morning. Cy stood on the steps, face unreadable, but his eyes softer than usual. The first trucker out was Trent Smoke Holloway, scuffed vest, salt and pepper beard, the kind of man who didn't need to raise his voice. He tipped his hat and stood beside Cy, silent but solid. Kyle gawked. "Who are they?" Deputy Jenkins just shrugged. Judge Grayson stepped outside, robe flapping in the breeze. "What's going on?" Smoke spoke up. "We're not lawyers, ma'am. Just witnesses for a man who never asked for thanks." He handed her a photo. A younger Cy, shirt soaked, crouched in floodwaters. Another man holding a stretcher behind him, oxygen tanks lashed to the side. That was 98. Floods shut down the interstate. Cy drove 18 hours, through water, brought that oxygen himself. Saved a kid's life. Judge Grayson's hands shook as she took the picture. Smoke went on, voice gentler now. "When that flood hit, half the county was cut off. Dispatch tried helicopters, couldn't get through. Cy showed up, drove 32 hours, roads iced, bridges out. Never asked for thanks. Never waited for praise." Mabel blinked away tears, nodding in the back. A woman named Marcy stood, leather vest, long gray braid. "He saved me in Idaho, 23 below, rigged sideways in a ditch. Hauled me out with bungee cords and duct tape, then vanished before I could even thank him." Randy tried to cut in. "Your Honor, this is all very moving, but none of this proves legal ownership." But Judge Grayson's stare shut him down cold. "Mr. Bloom, courts judge character as much as paperwork. And here, character is not sentimental, it's substantial." Kyle glanced at the folded brochure in his lap, local civics competition, and realized he was watching history, not just reporting it. Grayson opened a faded newspaper clipping, headline: "Local trucker hailed a hero during storm." There was Cy, half turned from the camera, red rock patch on his sleeve. "Mr. Booker," she asked, "why never mention any of this?" Cy's voice was rough but steady. "Flood hit sudden, 98. Brought what I could. Didn't stop driving till Danny passed. 3 months later, a valve in his heart. Wasn't 30 yet. Helping folks was the only way I could keep breathing." The room hushed, no one daring to move. Judge Grayson stared at the tire keychain, thinking. Then, her own memory surfaced. "Back in 72, I was 5, floodwaters rose. Someone in a red rock cap pulled me through the attic hatch. Never knew his name." Cy smiled, "Gave out a lot of those caps." Smoke laid the keychain by the gavel, and Grayson picked it up, held it for a long moment, then set it down, voice trembling just a little. "Sometimes proof is flesh and bone, not ink and seal." No one clapped. The courtroom door eased open, letting in a gust of cool air. Outside, a news vent set up, sensing the story wasn't about verdicts, but about something bigger. When Grayson finally ruled, her voice was steady. "Mr. Booker's land remains his. This court recommends historical recognition for his service to Millstone County. A few respectful nods, no applause, just something sacred settling into the bones of the building. Randy Bloom packed his briefcase, left with less swagger than he entered. Cy didn't smile, just nodded, then walked out into the light with smoke at his side. By sunset, the hollow had changed. Tables dragged out, sweet tea and cornbread, Mabel's best tablecloth, kids weaving between rigs, tracing dusty decals like runes. Kyle sat on the steps, handing Cy a flash drive. All your logs, digitized. Your story's safe now. Cy just held it, quiet, grateful. Inside, Judge Grayson placed Cy's battered ID beside a folded flag and a firefighter's helmet in the memorial case. The light hit it just right, making the plastic seem new again. Out at the garage, someone left a pie. "Thank you," Mr. Booker scrawled in icing. Cy laughed, finished the slice, watched as the trucks rolled away into the dark, headlights vanishing over the hills. He touched Danny's initials carved in the beam, flicked off the light. Not sad, just peaceful. He never wanted thanks, and maybe that's why so many showed up. Now, in Millstone Gap, something feels rearranged, like the town remembered a piece of its